In this video, Dr. Alisea McLeod, educator and researcher, explains how Civil War contraband camps, a seldom mentioned factor in America's Civil War, made important information about her father's family available to her, and how publication of records of the camps could unlock the histories of possibly millions of other African Americans.
Thanks, Cynthia. Hello. Let's begin with the emergence of contraband camps, and let's talk for just a bit about what that term actually means. Though it is not very often discussed in America, the fact of the matter is that literally hundreds of thousands of African Americans fled to their own freedom before the end of the Civil War, and in many cases also before the Emancipation Proclamation. This movement, this mass movement of African American slaves had not really been anticipated, not by the nation's leaders. And so no provision had been made. Essentially what happened is that African Americans who crossed into Union lines were classified as contraband. And because some sort of makeshift settlement had to be created for African Americans, this being the case wherever, again, African Americans crossed Union lines, there were open camps that we refer to today and also during the war as contraband camps. Again, we're talking about literally hundreds of thousands of African Americans, and so the question for commanding officers, the Army, became, what are we going to do with all of these people? And the answer really essentially was that we're going to put them to work. And because of this, then African Americans had to be registered. And so, in fact, we have in many places, I believe, but mainly in the National Archives, we have records of African Americans who crossed into these Union lines. There was a system not only of registration, but of passes. African Americans who were living in these camps had to register and also had to carry passes. And so this information, in fact, still exists. Some of it in paper form, some of it in microfilm form in our various archives. The National Archives, of course, being the main repository of this sort of information. A little bit about my own personal experience with these records. I, 2 years ago in 2009, came across, with the help of the archivist at the National Archives, who works specifically on African American history, a man by the name of Mr. Reginald Washington, came across the Register of Freedmen, which is actually the registry for 3,145 African Americans who were at Camp Shiloh in Memphis, Tennessee. And as it happened, 5 of my ancestors were listed in that record. So I have been transcribing that record, and not only for my own benefit, but for the benefit of other families who are somehow connected to the African Americans represented on that record. Just very quickly, I'd like to share with you some of the information made available on that record. The name of the registered party, where they were enslaved, their master, his or her name, what they did on the plantation or the nature of their occupation, their health condition at the time that they were listed on the registry, and in most cases, African Americans on that record appear in family groups. So this is clearly information that is invaluable. It can take some people back a generation, and this is information that has not yet appeared in digital form. As I said, it exists in microfilm form. I'm working on making it available via the internet, free and open public access to this information. And I have developed a website so that people can go and not only learn more about contraband camps in general, but to discover if perhaps one of your ancestors was in one of the camps, and if you may in fact find an ancestor whose name is represented in the public record. So please visit the site. It's called Last Road to Freedom, www.lastroadtofreedom.com, and you will find a wealth of information there. I hope that you find a connection, and I hope that you learn a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.